Yeah, so what I thought we could do is recently I've been on a quest to buy different brushes and I've tried a bunch because I usually would stick to the same ones, but I figured, oh, I don't have the store anymore. I can like splurge and try a bunch of different ones just to, make content. And this is one of the cool ones, but yesterday the unthinkable happened and it broke. And this sparked my old, oh, I should talk about brushes. So you know what? Let's talk about brushes, guys. Bought a fuck ton of brushes for no good reason, mind you. So as you can see, I like brushes. I'm a big fan of buying and trying a bunch of stuff. Have said this, I think, in another video, but I'll preface this. I always have three main brushes that I use all the time. I have four brushes that I use all the time. One of them is always brand new. I always keep a brand new brush somewhere. So you can see this is a finer one, like the Windsor and Newton Series 7. These are the pricier one. We'll talk about those later. But I always have at least one brand new one. That's like very important. Then I have one that's been like time tested and well beaten, and that was this guy until yesterday. But now we're gonna switch to this guy probably, which is a pretty good guy. He's seen the work. But he still does some of the stuff that we like. But yeah, so yeah, one new brush, and then one brush that's kind of my go-to guy, and he gets the bulk of the work. Like this guy painted. What's the last army that I did? Oh yeah, this guy he painted all the ogres basically. Essentially, this guy painted 90% of the ogres, and this guy painted a bunch of others. So when it gets like kind of trashed up, I use it for a dry brush situation, or like all the rough stuff that don't really need any precision. But this guy probably did like a lot of shading, because at one point this guy was a fine brush, but I paint a lot of toys, right? And then the fourth one is the one that's kind of destroyed, and I use this one for glue. And sometimes they don't make great for glue, so I use them to stir paint on my airbrush. This is the case of this fine gentleman right here. This guy, he's now the paint stirrer. So it's a tough life for these shit brushes here. These two brushes, they painted a full. I don't know how many points is it because it's a one-page rule, but a big ogre commission. And this guy did also a couple of the minis that we did on YouTube. So they live like kind of long enough. And then I also have like a bunch of premium ones in here that I use for other stuff, like the detail one, because these guys are not great for details. But I have this one. This one's the one I use the most for details, and it's on its last legs. Like you can see, it's kind of a. It's got it's still like works, but it's dying. Like when you make a point, it still makes a point. So I use this guy for eyes. If you watched the last video, there should be a pop-up here if you watch this on YouTube. If you watch the video on lenses, I use this brush for everything. In the lens video, just this one, we don't change ever. So one that's like for fine details. So I have like one big one that's for like everything. One medium one that's for like the core of my painting, and then one fine one that I rarely use. So that's kind of the three brushes that I use and that I recommend that you buy. So you get one very large one for bulk, one that's your main thing, and one finer one, and then you adjust, right? So I know from like selling these things for a while because I had the store. I've sold tens of thousands of if not hundreds of thousands of paintbrushes over the years, and I know from experience, I like bigger brushes than the average people. Like this is my go-to guy, and this probably for a lot of people this would be the big one that they like. So maybe you're like me, maybe not. Maybe your like comfort zone is a little bit smaller. That's fine because everybody gets everybody has a size that they prefer. It's how you use it, right? So that's kind of the first thing, right? So you want a big one, medium one, small one, and then you find your setting. But then there's a whole lot of like specialty brush that I enjoy. And so the second kind of type is the dry brush. And so that's brushes that are made to dry brush. Now, of course, as I said before, you can use just a bean-up brush. That works fine. It's kind of like what the OGs have been. Like if your dad or your uncle were into like miniature painting, it's what they did. It was back then, that's how you did it. You take your brush that's like beaten off, you cut the tip so that it's flat. You have a dry brush. So that's kind of the basic. These dry brushes, they work better with like real hair. The synthetic ones are always trash. They get destroyed super quickly, so that's really bad because they go through a lot of like wear and tear. Like dry brush is rough on brushes, right? So you can make yourself one, or you can buy some specialty ones. And you can see here, I've got a couple of specialty ones, which are these gentlemen right here. So this one here, this is the Army Painter set. So they sell it in 3 things, and as you can see, they're not mint because I used them. That's I don't. It's not just some fancy review bullshit. I use the stuff that I like, and these ones are great because they're domed, right? This is essentially this is like the makeup brush shape, and that's kind of their main purpose. So it's rough bristles. Like the bristles are really like resistant. They're coarse, I guess. Horse. They're rough, right? They're rigid. I think that's the word. Okay, anyway, so the brush sturdy. The word I was looking for is sturdy. So the hair on it is a lot more sturdy, so they can like withstand the abuse that comes from dry brush, and the dome shape makes really easy to dry brush. Now, in terms of like buying specialty ones, like this set, I think was, I think $25 Canadian. But I think I bought it a while ago, and I think I still had the store, so maybe I'm super off on pricing. And I've also seen Artist Opus sell a very similar set, but theirs was even more expensive, and I'm not a big fan of. Like I didn't use it. Full disclosure, I'm just usually not a big fan of Artist Opus products because they're very low grade. That you pay a premium because it says Artist Opus on them. At least that's been my experience with every of their product I've tried. So I have not tried their dry brush, but paying a lot of money for a dry brush is, in my mind, like not a good idea. And in fact, before these were like a thing, like like the Army Painter is a wargaming brand, so to speak. Before that was kind of a thing, you just go to the drugstore, and then you go to the beauty section of the drugstore, and you ask for makeup brushes. Makeup brushes are essentially this, and sometimes you get like softer bristles, but it's the same. So you can go like the Dollar General or the dollar store or whatever they call that in your area. But also like the cosmetic section, like the beauty section of drugstores and pharmacies usually have those things for not a lot of money. And so they're great because they have the dome shape is really nice. And then the second thing, which is, again, this is because I'm an old head a little bit, is the flat head, right? Like this one is seen better days, but usually when you buy it, it's like it's a little bit more flat. But I like these ones a lot. The flat head is, in my mind, is the best just because I've used this for 15 years before switching to something else. So it's kind of how I learned about this. So I really like these flat heads. I think having access to both is great. But this is kind of the same thing again, because you buy an old one and you just cut the tip off and you'd be pretty set with it. So that's kind of the good shape. But this allows you to do large surfaces really quickly. So in terms of dry brushes, this is kind of the usual suspects. So you either have like dome shapes like this, or you have the flat head, or your destroyed brush situation. And that's kind of what you like for dry brushing. So there's like grades about paintbrushes. There are kind of grading or quality. We'll call them threshold, for lack of a better word. Let's call them thresholds. So there's the basic and the very low end of brushes. Then there's the medium range, which is where most of the brushes are, and then there's the premium range. Realistically, all brushes fall into one of these categories, and then all of the categories have like the high of the high end, and then the high of the medium range, and then the high of the cheap range. And there's also the low of the low. So the low, I don't think I have the lowest tier is like the I call them like $5 brushes and less. So this orange guy here, let's use the one that's not busted up. So this orange guy is very low. This is a $5 one. The Army Painter red ones, these guys here, they're also very cheap. I think these are $5 or $6. So they're very low end. And you also have like the synthetic one. Games Workshop has like white brushes. I don't remember the name. They have a different name for them. I think STC maybe, something like that. They're the white ones. They're synthetic. They're lower priced than their other brushes. These all fall into the low end. There's also a bunch of Amazon ones that you can buy like $5 for 50 brushes. I call them one-use brushes because after one use they're destroyed. In the bottom range is the one that you pay less for, and usually these brushes are more sturdy, which is why I own some and why I like them. Because for $5, this brush you will buy two of, and two $5 brushes from this. These are the AKs, by the way, AK Interactives, and this one is size. No fucking clue. Cool. So. See how I did that? Yeah, so these ones, you buy two of them, they're at the same price range as one medium brush, but they will last you a lot more. Also, you have two brushes, so you get a lot of more mileage. So this one has been really my go-to. Before that, I used the Army Painter, the red ones. My favorite one was called Highlighting. Oh, yeah, that's our guy right here. This one was kind of my favorite because it's very sturdy, and the size is just kind of okay. This one, what I did not like is that the bristles are very long. That was kind of my least favorite part of them. And then you get into the mid-range, and the mid-range is essentially the Citadel brushes and a bunch of other ones. So you got the white Army Painters. The Abtalong 502s are also in the mid-range price point. Like this guy is an $8 brush. I got two of those. Do I have a Citadel one here? Yes, I do. This guy here. Oh, this one I think is also new, but this is my favorite one. This is the shade, I think. Medium shade. So these are all kind of the medium range of paint brushes. Not in size, again, in terms of quality and pricing. And they're, $15 or less. I think 15 is a good price point in Canadian money, so USA is probably like 12 or something. So the medium range brush is kind of interesting. These ones, the white from Army Painters, I find the quality is very limited except for the small ones. I like the small ones and the very big one that I had earlier. This guy right here, this gentleman, the vehicle brush, and this one is what's the name of this one? The Detail. I find the small ones and the very big one, but I've used one that's like in the middle. I think it's called Monster Brush. And I never got my money's worth because it's like about this size, but it breaks very easily, so you pay too much for it. But the small one, this one I've been really a fan of. And also, I heard they were changing, so this one might be old, but they are triangular. This is a weird one. It's also bigger, and I have big hands, and I like the triangle. Some people really hate it. I like it. And some people really like it. So this is a feels thing, right? So this one is kind of the lower end of the medium ones. I think they're... You could call these cheap brushes. It's fine. And then the Games Workshop are kind of like pricier, honestly. For honestly no good reason. What I find the most frustrating about the Games Workshop one is that the names make no sense. There's no rhyme or reason. Like the small base has like a different shape than the large base, and the medium base is another different shape. They're all weird. Whereas they use these like code names for. You should be doing some things, but the medium shade I found is the one that the size that I like the best. You guys can see I'm a pretty consistent kind of guy, and what I say, I'm pretty consistent in what I like. Right? So this one is really my favorite. I've used this one probably the most out of a lot of others. And then the Abtalong are also the lower end of the thing, and I've used them, and I'm not a big fan of them as well. I'm giving them a try. Mainly because the place where I bought my AKs, they were out of AKs because I bought two and then I trashed the two, and then I was like, hey, I'll buy some more. They were out, so I said, well, I'll buy the Abtalong 502s instead to give them a try. And I thought they were pricier for something that's, again, very equivalent in terms of durability and stuff. So for me, these ones were okay, but probably, like, if I have a choice between the AK and this one, I'll rebuy the AK, not this one. So that kind of covers the middle ground. Then the high-end one, we got two here. And there's like kind of four of them, four different brands that you usually go through. So the first one is Rosemary & Co. And Rosemary & Co. is the low end of the high-end brushes. So this brush here is more expensive than the other ones. But it's kind of the entry to the premium brushes. This guy here is a little bit smaller than the other ones I've talked about. And it's got long bristles, but even if I'm like very rough with it, like you can see it's brand new, I put it into water, and we're back to like a very fine point. So these kind of brushes, they can do a lot for you. Again, this is the size 2. I would probably get like a, I guess 4 for my go-to, but they had this one. I'm gonna try this one. So this is kind of an all-purpose brush. You can do everything with this brush, and that's kind of what's great about these high-end brushes, is that they withstand like a lot. So once you're like when you're a little proficient with them, buying high-end brushes, you don't need to rebuy quite as often. So the Rosemary & Co. Is kind of the bottom line of this. It's the entry point, if you will, into premium brushes. The other one, I'm trying to think of the name, but I kind of forgot. With that, it's going to come back to me. But the other big range is the Winsor & Newton Series 7 or the Raphael's 8404. Essentially the same, and they have the same like kind of qualities and flaws, which are these brushes are expensive as balls. Okay, they cost a lot of dollars. The good thing is, often enough they are on sale on Amazon, and I usually buy the ones that are on sale. In terms of quality, I find that they are very, very similar. The Raphaels and the Winsor & Newton, these things last a long time. Now this one is different than the ones I usually get. This one is a miniature, and miniature means short hair. If you compare, well, let's compare with this guy. Like if you compare the hair, like the bristle size and stuff like that, this one has much less. It's almost like a triangle. It's not like the tear shape of the other one. So the miniature one, and the reason I bought this one is because I wanted to try, because a lot of the high-end painters that I watch use this one. And I was like, oh, I want to try it. Let's see what the deal's about. I am not a fan of the smaller things, just because I paint large quantities of things. But the regular ones are very similar looking to this one. And so these brushes are really great. They are expensive, but they last you a very, very long time, and you can do a whole lot with those. And so since I paint most of the day, and most of what I do is with high-end brushes, just because otherwise I would go through one brush a week, and that's just like kind of not sustainable in terms of like money or whatnot. But I think small, like cheaper brushes do have their place in like an arsenal of paintbrush, because you don't want to use, you know, the big fancy brushes for dry brush all the time. It's not worth it. And same thing, using only cheap brushes to save money, it only makes the hobby more frustrating. So I think everything has a place, but knowing what you're buying into is what makes this interesting. If I'm trying to get the most value out of these brushes, and I said that they're cheap, but I get the most money out of this one because it's $5. But it's not going to be as good as this guy, and I don't expect it to be. It's when you think, oh, well, I'm paying $13 for a Games Workshop one, it should last me, it should be super good. Well, no, it's a $13 brush. I'm okay with like low tier, I'm okay with middle tier, I'm okay with high tier. I just like to find the one that lasts me the most in each of those tiers so that I can, shop smart, basically. Do I have this? What's that one? Whoa, that's a big French Canadian if I've ever saw one. No, I don't want this. Oh, thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed and found this useful, be sure to subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments if there's anything else you would like me to talk about. I make all of these videos based on the questions from you guys.